When we created an estimate, within the wizard, the software asked us to select a group of workbooks. We selected the Plans Express group of workbooks. This provides a checklist of items that are not normally drawn. If we look down the left-hand side of the screen, we can see that the software has automatically imported a number of workbooks. Each of these contains a series of calculators to remind you to add various items. Let's start by having a look at the site appraisal costs. Select the item and double-click or press the Open Workbook. Double-click on the worksheet to open it. Within the worksheet, there are a number of items for you to check. Do you need to make an allowance for a site survey or a site excavation, or fees for planning consultants and architects? If you do need to add cost for these, simply add the value in the quantity column. For argument's sake, I'm going to allow £1,000 for a site survey and £500 for an engineer's report. I'm probably going to need a planning consultant, so I'm going to allow £1,500 for them. If you look to the right of the screen, you will notice that there are a number of hash signs. This simply means that the text is overflowing the individual cells. To view the content of those cells, right-click with your mouse and click on Auto Fit. You'll then see that all the figures appear. Once you have finished reviewing the sheet, press the Summary sheet to return to the summary. Let's now have a look at the design costs. Select the item, click Open Workbook or double-click on the sheet, and once again you can add the figures to cover the various costs. Let's allow £1,000 for the design fees and say £500 for planning and building regs. Press Close or hit the Summary key. Let's now have a look at site establishment. You will notice within this workbook there are 4 worksheets. Each of these worksheets needs to be opened individually and the content checked and edited. When you've completed each worksheet, press the Close button to return to this menu. Click on the individual sheet and confirm the values. On this occasion, I'm going to allow 20 weeks for the site cabin, 20 weeks for the toilet, and 20 weeks for the site fencing. I'm not going to allow for a site compound. Because there are multiple worksheets in this workbook, I'm going to press Close to return to the menu within the site establishment. Let's now have a look at the preliminary costs. Select the item and double-click. Here we can have a look at the insurance costs and so on. Click on the insurance value. Let's assume I've had a quote of £450 and I'm going to allow £500 for health and safety costs. When I'm finished with that, press Close, turn to the menu. Let's have a look at sundry plant. Double-click. Notice that you need to look at the units of supply for each of these items. So how long do we need a double ladder for? Let's assume we need one for 15 weeks. A forklift truck for 4 weeks. We don't need a water bowser. A mixer for 6 weeks. 16 weeks for tarpaulins. We're going to purchase some barrows. Notice that those are not in weeks, but in eaches. So I'm going to allow for 2 wheelbarrows, dustbins, and so on. So it's simply a question of working your way down the columns and checking that you're happy with each item. Once you have completed the check, press Close. If you wish, you can then make allowances for travel costs and parking fees and so on. Press close and the workbook itself returns you to the summary screen. I can now make an allowance for scaffolding. It is actually possible to draw the scaffolding within Plans Express to do the calculations, but we're going to do it manually on this occasion. As scaffolding can often be drawn within Plans Express, it does not automatically appear within the Plans Express group of workbooks, although if you wish you can add it to it for future use. In order to add an additional workbook to the estimate, click on the Add Workbook button. The software will then present all of the workbooks that are available on your system. The total quantity of workbooks will depend on the package that you have purchased, but can contain up to 500 calculators. You can find a particular workbook by typing in a keyword or search through the lists for the type of object that you're looking for. In this case, you can see that scaffolding is available in preliminaries. If I click on all of the workbooks then appear, or I could have found the workbook by typing in the word scaffold. Tick the item and press select. The workbook then appears in the listing. If I wish to change the order of the workbooks, I can click on the Sort Workbooks button. Select the workbook you wish to move and move it down. Click OK when you have finished reorganizing the workbooks. Let's now click on the scaffolding to commence the estimate. As we're going to be doing a house, I'm going to click on that value, press select, and enter the total girth of the scaffolding. Let's assume that's 60 meters. We have 2 lifts, and we've got a total of say 25 meters of table lifts to cover the gables. We're going to assume we've got it on hire for 6 weeks. We're going to assume that the scaffold is also in use for 6 weeks and it doesn't overrun at all, and that we're allowing £100 for sundry items. Click Finish, and the software works out a budget for it. I would always suggest that you get quotes for scaffolding, as prices can vary widely as you move around the country depending on demand. Press Close and confirm that the job is complete. So as you can see, with all these workbooks, it's simply a question of working your way through them and checking the values contained therein. At the bottom of the screen, there is an opportunity to add subcontract quotations. Let's click on that and open it. Double click again. This provides you with an opportunity to add budgets to cover the cost of items that you have not yet drawn or you do not yet propose to draw. For argument's sake, we have not made any allowance for electrics or plumbing costs. Let's have a look at that row. This is divided into 2 sections, electrical first fix and electrical second fix. Clearly the idea would be that you would get a price from your subcontractor to cover this costs. Let's put a budget of £1,500 in for the first fix and the same for second fix. Similarly with the plumbing, I'm going to allow £3,500 for first fix and £3,500 for second fix. Once again, if I right click on the screen, it will auto fit the text to the right of the values. I can then make allowances for things like fitted kitchens, landscaping, and so on. Once you have finished those, press close. Again, just to confirm, you would generally need to get a quote for each of those items. Of course, if we'd taken the time to place the electrics and the plumbing on the drawings, all of those would be automatically calculated by the software. And of course, we could also have drawn the landscaping, drives, patios, lawns, and so on. And all of this would have been estimated automatically. This pretty well concludes the discussion of how to use the software to do the estimate. The next video will cover reporting and preparation of quotes.